The Cold War. It wasn't a war with guns and bombs, not exactly. It was a clash of ideas, a battle of wills between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Imagine a world split in two. On one side, you have the United States and its allies, champions of democracy and capitalism. On the other side stands the Soviet Union, a communist giant promoting a very different vision of the world. From the ashes of World War II, this rivalry emerged, shaping global politics for nearly half a century. It was a time of espionage, propaganda, and the constant threat of nuclear annihilation. The Cold War was a chilling reminder that even without a single shot fired, tensions could run so high that the fate of the world hung in the balance. Understanding the Cold War is crucial to understanding the world we live in today. It shaped alliances, fueled conflicts, and left an indelible mark on international relations. Even though the Cold War ended decades ago, its legacy continues to influence global politics and remind us of the fragility of peace. The Cold War didn't erupt overnight. It was a gradual build-up of mistrust and suspicion between the United States and the Soviet Union. Both emerged from World War II as superpowers, but their ideologies clashed fundamentally. The United States, a champion of democracy and capitalism, feared the spread of communism. The Soviet Union, led by Joseph Stalin, sought to expand its influence and promote its communist ideology. Their wartime alliance, forged in the fight against Nazi Germany, quickly dissolved. Differences in post-war visions for Europe created deep divisions. The Soviets sought to establish a buffer zone of friendly states in Eastern Europe, while the United States aimed to contain the spread of communism. The seeds of suspicion were sown, and the rivalry between the two superpowers began to take root. The Yalta Conference in 1945, intended to shape post-war Europe, instead highlighted the growing rift. Agreements made at Yalta soon unraveled as mistrust deepened. The Soviets installed communist governments in Eastern Europe, violating promises of free elections. The United States, alarmed by these actions, began to view the Soviet Union not as an ally but as a threat. The stage was set for the Cold War. The early years of the Cold War were marked by a series of crises that pushed the world to the brink. The Truman Doctrine, announced in 1947, signaled America's commitment to containing communism, providing aid to Greece and Turkey to resist Soviet pressure. The Marshall Plan followed, offering economic assistance to war-torn Europe, further solidifying the division between East and West. In 1948, the Soviets blockaded Berlin, attempting to force the Western powers out of the city. The Berlin airlift, a remarkable feat of logistics, kept West Berlin supplied by air for over a year, ultimately forcing Stalin to lift the blockade. The Berlin Wall, erected in 1961, became a potent symbol of the Cold War, dividing the city and representing the stark ideological divide between East and West. The Korean War, which began in 1950, further escalated tensions. North Korea, backed by the Soviet Union and China, invaded South Korea. The United States intervened militarily, leading to a bloody three-year conflict that ended in a stalemate. The Korean War demonstrated that the Cold War could easily turn hot, with devastating consequences. Section 4, Khrushchev, Kennedy, and the Missiles of October. The Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962 brought the world closer to nuclear war than ever before. The Soviet Union, led by Nikita Khrushchev, began installing nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles off the coast of Florida. This move, intended to counter American nuclear superiority, was met with a firm response from President John F. Kennedy. For 13 tense days, the world held its breath as Kennedy imposed a naval blockade on Cuba and demanded the removal of the missiles. Negotiations between Kennedy and Khrushchev were fraught with tension, each leader aware of the catastrophic consequences of miscalculation. Finally, a deal was struck. The Soviets agreed to remove the missiles from Cuba in exchange for a US pledge not to invade the island and a secret agreement to remove US missiles from Turkey. The Cuban Missile Crisis was a turning point in the Cold War. It highlighted the terrifying potential consequences of a nuclear confrontation and spurred both superpowers to seek ways to manage their rivalry. A hotline was established between Washington and Moscow to facilitate direct communication in times of crisis, and the following year, the Limited Test Ban Treaty was signed, banning nuclear weapon tests in the atmosphere, underwater, and outer space. Section 5. Living on the edge: life under the shadow of nuclear war. The Cold War cast a long shadow over the lives of ordinary people. The constant threat of nuclear war permeated every aspect of society, from international relations to daily life. Duck and cover drills became commonplace in schools, while families built bomb shelters in their backyards, hoping to survive a nuclear attack. Propaganda became a powerful tool during the Cold War. Both sides used it to demonize the other and promote their own ideologies. The United States portrayed the Soviet Union as an evil empire bent on world domination, while the Soviets depicted the US as a capitalist aggressor exploiting the working class. The Cold War also fueled a climate of paranoia and suspicion, particularly in the United States. Senator Joseph McCarthy led a campaign of fear-mongering, accusing government officials, academics, and Hollywood celebrities of being communist sympathizers. The McCarthy era left a lasting stain on American society, highlighting the dangers of unchecked fear and political opportunism.